Welcome to After the Pull, the video series, where I take all of the comic books I read for the current comic book week and share my opinions with you guys. So if you guys love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you came to the right place. Why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button? Also, guys, if you're interested in variant comic book covers, why don't you check out MutantBeaverComics.com. They have over 4,000 exclusive variants in their store. They have top-notch customer service, and they have great packaging. So if you use my discount code CORNER10, not only are you going to save 10% off of your first order, but every other purchase after that. So check out MutantBeaverComics.com. So with that being said, we got a hefty episode this week of After the Pull, so let's get started. Doctor Strange issue 15, the legacy numbering is 441, 28 pages for the price of $4. This one's written by Jed MacKay and the art is done by Pasquale Ferry. Now, I don't read too much Doctor Strange, but I did want to see how this all tied into the whole Blood Hunt situation, as if you read Blood Hunt, right, you got to see what happened to Doctor Strange, and you definitely want to see how that continues. And in this story, we wind up getting to see, obviously, a little bit of Blade's motive here. What's his purpose on taking out Doctor Strange? And the good thing about this comic book is if you read all of Jed MacKay's comics, right, this ties in heavily to, obviously, Doctor Strange, which he writes, Moon Knight, which he writes, the Avengers, which he writes, and obviously the main event. So if there's going to be any tie-ins that you actually read when it comes to this, it's gonna be those particular books, the ones that Jed MacKay writes, because again, you have all of the people from Moon Knight tying into this book, being involved in this whole mission as well. So at the end of the day, this was a nice little read. I thought the artwork could have been a little bit better. Didn't fit the tone of a dark book so much, but I'm going to give this one a solid B. Again, much better tie-in than I ever expected. Venom issue 33, legacy numbering 233, 28 pages for the price of $3.99. Al Ewing writes this book, and the art is done by Juan Ferreira. Now, it's not the regular artist in this comic, and the art, though, does look fine. I mean, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's kind of what you're going to expect, and more of a horror tone feel of comic. Now, I can't honestly tell you when it comes to Venom, if you have not read anything with Venom, you're going to be completely lost with this comic book. And even though it's a Blood Hunt tie-in, it's just, it has more to do with, I would want to say, Dylan and the symbiote and Lee Price than really anything else that's going on with Blood Hunt. But it does tie into it loosely, as there's like alien vampire that is going to go after the symbiotes or whatever it is. But a lot of this stuff is trying to catch you up on like what's going on with the symbiote, how it doesn't have a host at this moment in time, how it could die in the future, and it's looking for Lee Price. And if you don't know who Lee Price is, he is a character that was killed off way back, I think, in like 2016. And I think there was actually an editor's note in there. And you wind up fighting this symbiote, Venom symbiote, looking for a host, and maybe he can somehow reconnect with Lee Price, and Lee Price is resurrected as like some kind of zombie creature. It just looks pretty sick. So again, the artwork was really good. Again, this wasn't the best tie-in. I think this is one of the weaker tie-ins. And if you're not reading Venom, I don't know if you'll truly understand. So, cool artwork. I understood it a little bit more, but as an overall story, do you really need Venom to tie into Blood Hunt? Really, no. So, I'm going to give this one an average C. It was okay. The Amazing Spider-Man, this is issue 49, legacy numbering 943, 28 pages for the price of $5, written by Zeb Wells, and the art this time around is John Romita Jr. The artwork is not horrible in this particular issue. There is a little bit more action in here. There is times where if John Romita can escape drawing the lines on Spider-Man's suit, he will do that. But otherwise, the artwork is pretty decent in this comic. And this is a setup for the Blood Hunt miniseries that is coming soon. Thank God for that, because I like how Blood Hunt will not overall interrupt this series from going forward. Now, what this book accomplishes is maybe not very much in the grand scheme of what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man, but it does kick off that little mini event, like I said, and it shows the reader, obviously, what Spider-Man is. Great power comes great responsibility. Even though he's hunting down this random vampire, he still looks at this guy as like a human, just like a regular, everyday person. And they feel like, hey, maybe we can help him, right? And it was all this little setup because White Rabbit turned into a vampire and they had to kill this guy so the other dude wouldn't turn into a vampire. And we can see that this bothered Spider-Man quite heavily. And then at the end, you wind up getting Lizard showing up, and now it looks like that Spider-Man will be working with the Lizard and Misty Knight going forward. So this issue wasn't actually bad. It doesn't really accomplish anything. It's very much a filler. Kicks off that event, like I said. But it was fine. It was enjoyable. I mean, I'm gonna give it a B because it definitely stayed true to who the character actually is here. Great power, great responsibility. The Avengers, this is issue 14, 28 pages for the price of $4. The legacy numbering on this bad boy is 780. The writer here is Jed McKay, and the art is done by Carlos Fabian Villa. The artwork is great, man. Check out the facial expressions there on Quicksilver. Hazmat's on this team now, and I just love the coloring in here also. It looks really great. There's just a lot of action, and you get to see a lot of fighting between our B-team Avengers and like Nazi vampires, dude. It's freaking sick. I love this. This is like a freaking action flick at its finest right here. There's some great lines in this comic book, and by the time you wind up getting to see all this fighting and all these vampires, we get seen bearing blood in this comic, and that was awesome. But what made this book really great was just the introduction to the B team. Obviously, if you read Blood Hunt, you got to see the Avengers got their asses handed to them, and Captain Marvel is the one that recruits Captain America to get the B team together. And that opening page was great with the Avengers card, and you get reintroduced to a new team just like in issue 1. So you get Captain America, you get Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, you got Hazmat, and then you get Hercules and Quicksilver, and you just get to see all their power sets and things that they can do, and it just sets up for a nice, fun event when it comes to the Avengers here. So this one surprised me. Really liked it. Again, it's connected to the major event, so I will stress this multiple times. If there's a tie-ins that you get, it's Avengers, it's a Moon Knight, and it's Doctor Strange. Those are probably going to be your best ones. This one was an A for me. I really liked it, guys. Deadpool issue 2. This book is 28 pages for the price of $4. This one's written by Cody Ziegler. The art is done by Roj Antonio. The artwork's great. Coloring is great. I love the action scenes when they happen in this comic book. And there is a lot to read in this comic, but it doesn't break that fourth wall a lot because there's a lot of supporting characters in this comic book where Deadpool in very many ways is just like he'll be on his own. But in this book, he's got Taskmaster in here. He's got his little symbiote dog by the name of Princess. We also get to see Deadpool's daughter in here. Is her name Ellie? I don't remember what her name is. I could be making that up. Maybe it's her name. And the funny thing is, though, when it comes to Deadpool's daughter, at least right now, like, she's the least interesting thing for me in this comic book. Like, I want to see the missions at hand when it comes to Deadpool. He's starting like this mercenary startup business where he's going to be taking up, missions and stuff. and he has to start off in this like low rent, bad area office building where he acquires Taskmaster, who's not looking for a lot of money right now because he's trying to like clear his name, lay low for a little bit, do the right thing. And the first job that they wind up taking is going to this like convention called Streaming Con, and they get this like YouTuber and to sit alongside of him, and no one comes across this guy because he's a micro influencer, and it was just like really hilarious. But then kind of like all shit hits the fan. There's something that happens in this convention, and they come across Crossbones. So it's obviously tied to a much heavier mission going forward. But this book was fun. I loved it. I think I'm gonna give it a B- though, because right now I don't find the daughter so interesting. She wants to learn more about her dad. She wants to be with her dad, and you find out she's got healing powers, and you're like, oh man, is she going to be a superhero in the future? Like, I don't know. So I'm not so heavily invested in that. I like the Deadpool Taskmaster stuff. I think that's the stuff that interests me right now. Wolverine issue 49. This is a 28-page comic for the price of $5. This is Sabertooth War Part 9, the penultimate issue, written by Benjamin Percy and Victor Lavelle. And the artwork on this one is done by Jeff Shaw. Artwork in this series is never really a disappointment. It looks like $1 million. It's absolutely awesome. When there's action in this comic, the action is great. Look at that facial expression there from Sabertooth, really nice. But there's not much that really does happen in this book. What happens is you see Sabertooth, who is actually trapped, and they're trying to, I guess, get him in a state to think about the error of his ways and maybe change him for the good. That doesn't really happen. So you get to see just, you know, what's going on in Sabertooth's brain this entire issue. And what it does is it backfires on them. He gets to go on Berserker range, Berserker mode, I guess, and then that's what's going to lead to the final confrontation between Wolverine and Sabertooth here. When it comes to actually seeing the main character in this comic book, I think you see him in like one page in that new armor, right? And that was about it. So as a penultimate issue, you're kind of like, oh man, does it get me really excited for the conclusion? Or you're just like, man, can I just get to the conclusion already? This is kind of falling off a little bit for me because it started off so strong. And this one kind of falls in a dud. But hopefully issue 10 ends up to be really solid in an overall pretty good Wolverine event. Spider-Man, Shadow of the Green Goblin. This is issue 2, 32 pages for the price of $4. This one's written by J.M. DeMatteis, and the art is done by Michael Stamera. Artwork's good in this comic book. I really like it. The characters look great. If they're old, they look old. You know, if you have a scary character like this proto-goblin guy, he looks really creepy and horrific at times, especially as he's going through like these crazy transformations like right here. Spider-Man looks badass. We get a confrontation between Sandman and Spider-Man in here, and this would be like probably their second meeting because this is early on Spider-Man. This is like year one Spider-Man, right? So that was really good. Now, what makes this book awesome is that since this is like year one Spider-Man and really early on for like maybe some super villains, these guys are all trying to figure out what their place is in the world. And I love that. And what I loved about this comic was the heart-to-heart that Sandman and Spider-Man had in this comic book about how Sandman can maybe become or still be a hero, how Spider-Man is trying to, you know, figure out to be a hero, how they fought. They had a truce for an evening, and they said, hey, you know what? I'm going to rob a bank tomorrow, and we can go at it again. And he's like, okay, but for now, we're at a truce. And then you get the other part of the story where you get to see this Red Goblin type of character who is on this mission to get Harry Osborn so he can become normal again and become become one with his family again. So he's kind of being bribed in that aspect as well. Overall, this is a great story. And this is an A plus for me. This is, again, another one of those Spider-Man books that is way better than the main title, and it has heart and it has passion and it shows who the character actually is here. So definitely I recommend picking this one up if you did not pick up issue 1 yet. Batman issue 147, legacy numbering 912, 40 pages. The price is $5. Chip Zdarsky's the writer. Jorge Jimenez is the artist in this book. And the art is really good, man. It's awesome. I love looking at the artwork. There's so much action. The characters look great as well. And Failsafe Batman or Zur, it just looks really cool. And you get a scale of like how tall he is when he's next to Amanda Waller in this comic book. So I thought that was really cool. And in this comic, we finally get Damian figuring out if this is really Bruce or not. Like, it's like a light bulb finally goes off in his head, and we wind up getting to see the mission at hand that Zur is trying to accomplish by making his own Amazo army, by using other Zurs from other universes or Earths and putting them in his own army. And that's how Damian finds out like what's going on. And like literally there's the light bulb moment that goes off. And then you wind up seeing them fight with each other. And we wind up seeing the first one come up, right? Then the other cool thing that happened in this particular issue was you see Tim Drake making his appearance back in this comic book, because Bruce winds up going to a particular cabin that his father built a long time ago by his hands that no one has on their radar. So he's trying to recover. He's trying to become Batman again. And we get to see him, looks like, don a new suit here. And I thought that was cool too. And then you get the little backup story, which I never really read those. But for me, this book was much improved. It was nice to see that Damian's got the light bulb freaking flicked on right there. And then you wind up seeing Bruce Wayne getting back in his suit and reuniting with Tim, because that's kind of how this whole series started. You know, it started with him teaming up with Tim, and we haven't seen Tim all that much. And now that these two are teaming up together to be Batman and Robin, and Damian is being captured, and Failsafe looks like he's getting the upper hand, you know, hopefully the tides will turn. This was much improved. So I'm going to give this one a solid B. Some people still might not like Zur. Some people might not like that this story's been going on too long. But at least for me, it's been improving. Guer, issue 2, 38 pages for the price of $4, written by Jeff Johns. And the beautiful artwork in this book is done by Gary Frank. Love the artwork in this book. It's very gritty, almost reminds me of a Western type of style of comic book. Look at that 2-page spread, that's really nice. And what this book is about, really, at the end of the day, it's almost about all family. It's about a family of pigs that possibly could be getting killed, and our heroes have to do, you know, an unfortunate thing in order to survive themselves. Guer, who is named Tyreek, his real name, is hanging on to this nuclear night guy because this is his new family. And then they go to this particular town where they're trying to get information on a guy that can possibly actually cure Tyreek's glowing man condition, right? Because he's full of radiation. But in order to get that information and the name that they're looking for, they gotta go on this mission to stop this guy that's causing havoc in this particular town. They have to kill him. So after they go on this mission and they find out that really the motive behind this guy on why he's causing all these problems here, it's because he has a family and he is protecting his family. So in this comic book, you know, Tyreek kind of makes it out to where he kills this guy, but he doesn't. And he still gets the name that he was looking for to help solve his condition. But at the end of the day, it's all about family here. You know, it was like, oh, look, we have to sacrifice one of the family members to keep our family alive. In order for this family to live, we have to kind of create a loophole. And what it really is coming down to, it's showing that the main character still has heart. He's reminding himself that I am human. I don't have to kill and destroy everything around me. Really solid book. Really enjoyed it. This is a B+ for me. I had fun. The only problem with this book is that it's such a quick read, and like I want more out of it, right? I feel like this story is just almost not enough, but it's still awesome, man. Sacrificers. This is issue 8. This is a 28-page comic for the price of $4. Written by Rick Remender, and the art is done by Max Flamera. I did not get a physical copy of this book. I don't think my shop actually had it. I had to read it digitally. So unfortunately, I don't have any art to show you, but the story was actually good because this one focuses around Pigeon. We haven't seen him since the book took a break, right? And we got to see him acquire these powers from the brain juice that these gods actually drink. And now he is like super strong, okay? And so what we see in this comic is we see Pigeon try to go back to his family to show him that he's still alive, but what he comes back to is death and destruction because of the fight that happened between the gods and the female moon goddess, right? How she wound up dying, and then there was this big tidal wave that happened. And when we see the survivors of this city see one of the sacrificer kids, which is the Pigeon character, live, they blame him. That this is why all this stuff actually happened. And then we get to see something that was much unexpected from the Pigeon character, taking matters into his own hands, and you're just like, oh my gosh. This book is freaking awesome. It's filled with so much heart and emotion, and you can't help feel bad for every single character when they go through some kind of situation in this comic. Now, I have no idea where this goes, but this is definitely a top pick book for me. This is an A+. Every time it comes out, it definitely delivers, and I cannot wait for the next issue. Gunslinger Spawn. This is issue 31. 24 pages for the price of $3. Written by Todd McFarlane, and the art is done by Carlo Barberi. The artwork is really good in this comic. And what this issue is, it's more of a flashback issue of what has happened to Javier, what has happened to his family, how he was branded, how this particular office building where he's going has that same insignia as the brand that's on his chest. And he's just catching up with the person that he's teaming up with by the name of Linda in this comic on, you know, do you want to be my partner or do you not want to be my partner? And she wants to be on board with this. She's on this journey, right? And we wind up seeing Javier go to the healer to heal all his, you know, pretty much mortal wounds. He was going to die if he didn't get these things taken care of. And now it looks like in the next issue, things are going to heat up because he goes inside that building and it looks like he's going to confront these people, you know, that had to deal with them killing his family. Now, even though not much happened in this comic book, it doesn't really progress all the story. It does catch up with maybe newer readers on the series. Because we are 31 issues into this thing, and if you're just jumping on, at least now you see the mission at hand with Javier. This guy reminds me of like a Clint Eastwood character for some reason. It's like when he talks, I don't know, it's to me, he talks like Clint Eastwood. That's just me, right? And I definitely want to see how this whole thing continues, if the run is going to be continuing ongoing forever. Where does it go from here? Right now, it's a little bit of stall, not as good. I'm going to give this one a solid B, and hopefully the action ramps up once again. So I'm not going to spoil too much of this because I know there's some people that haven't read this book that heard it was good and they never read it. But this is the conclusion to the Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue 6. 28 pages, $4. I know people were thinking, this is just some like little freaking bear that's out on the streets and they're doing some little gross story thing. And it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that. It's so much creepier than that. It's an absolutely outstanding series. So I'm going to tell you, when this trade actually comes out, which I hope is soon, you're going to pick this up. Because this book is about a bear who commits crimes in another city and basically gets ratted out, and it becomes a bear and mouse game. Who wins? Who loses? You found out in this final issue who outsmarts the other person, or animal, I should say, and the payoff is so worth it. I'm gonna give my grade on this overall series an A+. Probably one of my favorite series of the year. So please, guys, do yourself a favor. Pick this trade up when it does come out. You will not be disappointed. Transformers issue 8, 32-page comic for the price of $4. Written by Daniel Warren Johnson. Artwork is done by Jorge Corona. This book is great, guys. The artwork, it really doesn't miss a beat. With Spicer being on that artwork, it's great. Now, this book probably has the least amount of action in it, and it deals more with the actual characters and the situations that they're in and the ramifications that has happened based off of the plots previously, right? First things first is we wind up seeing Carly dealing with her mental side of things, how she still blames Cliffjumper for not killing Starscream. Like, that was his opportunity and he did not do it, and she is so pissed off at him that she's not sure if she can trust him again. And it's just like, man, I really like those two together, and it sucks. But on the flip side of things, RC's trying to correct things, get her out of the dark side by giving her an apprenticeship, like she is an Autobot herself. So I thought that was kind of cool. Another plot situation that happens in there is we got to see the Decepticons find their base of operations that was lost on the way to Earth, but they had to take a dark path and really destroy all these soldiers that were on this USS carrier. And it's just like, oh man, that's a very dark moment as well. Then we wind up getting to see the return of Jetfire in this comic, and they didn't have enough Energon to bring him back to life, and he's like a husk of himself. He's just an airplane. The dude can't see. They just use him for travel purposes, and you can see he's all depressed. He's not the same. Will they bring him back in the future? Probably so, but for right now, you can feel that pain in that Autobot. And then we wind up getting to see return of a particular Decepticon in this comic, and he is pissed off at Megatron, and you're just like, oh damn, I didn't see that coming as well. And then when we wind up getting to see the Decepticons get to their base of operations, they get in contact with Shockwave, and now they have the means to recruit new Decepticons from Cybertron. What can I say? A+ all the way. It's never a bad freaking comic. This tackles so many things, right? It's one moment there's full of action, one moment it's super dark, and then it gets you excited again for the next issue. The writing here is so phenomenal. Somehow, some way, they have to keep Daniel Warren Johnson on this comic as long as possible. We know, I think at this point, he's only contractual to do 12 issues. I will be sad to see him go if he does leave this comic. There's nobody that's going to write this comic as good as he is. Nobody. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Man, this book is so good. Gosh. I can't get over it, man. So there you have it, webheads. There are the rest of the comic books I read for the current comic book week. It was a hefty week. Do you agree with my grades? Do you disagree? I want to know your own grades in the comments below. And if you love the content, of course there's more content right here. On Mother's Day, I put out a cool little video asking you guys, what do you do besides reading or collecting comic books? Check that video out and leave the comments down below in that video. And of course, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember to read those comics so we can have great comic conversation. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you real soon. Bye.